Imagine being told you're not paid to think, so you stop thinking, and just let your boss walk straight into disaster. Hello and welcome back to Karma Stories. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. In today's episode, we've got a teacher who ignored a skunk warning and ended up reeking of karma, and a family's attempt at Easter shunning that completely backfired. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Bacon Potluck. You're not paid to think. Okay, so I didn't. A few years ago, I worked as a copywriter at a small PR agency run by a tyrant of a boss. Let's call her Marcy. She was all about control. One day during a strategy meeting, I pointed out a huge flaw in a campaign that could have cost our client major money. Her response, "You're not paid to think, you're paid to write what I tell you." Cool, got it. From that point on, I followed her instructions exactly. No suggestions, no edits, no heads up when things were obviously going sideways, just pure, flawless compliance. Within 2 months, 2 major clients left over tone-deaf campaigns. One I had tried to fix, but was explicitly told not to. Guess who got blamed? Me. Guess who kept receipts? Also me. I forwarded my "just doing what you told me" email chain to HR. Turns out, this wasn't the first complaint. She was restructured out of the company 3 weeks later. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Cat Pain Calamari. It says, "If this happened during a meeting, how did you get her to put this into an email and send it to you? Did you just ask?" Opie responded and said, "This meeting was a Zoom call, and I sent her the email during that time. She was one of the first people to speak, so I wrote it and sent it while another person was talking." Another commenter down below called DLC741 said, "This is the opposite of what a manager friend used to say, 'We pay you to think.' She would then explain that if the job didn't require thinking, we'd have automated it." 2 really quick points on this one. If you send an email to your boss asking them to confirm something that they've told you, they should really take a look at that email, because this is one of those "are you sure" moments, and if a boss was smart, they'd realize what that meant. But in this case, obviously not. The comment of "you're not paid to think" made me remember directly back to working with Rick, because if you had any suggestions for work that were outside of what he had told you to do, even if it was a better way that would save time or save money, he would tell you, "You're doing it my way, I didn't ask for your opinion." I'm so glad I'm not there anymore. Screw you, Rick. Screw you very much. A rude customer demanded a cheaper price on his ham, so the meat counter guy gave it to him, thanks to a little accidental dyslexia. This story comes to us from one of our favorites, Ancient Educator 76. Dyslexia wins. "Hey y'all, it's your friendly neighborhood meat counter guy. I had an order waiting for a customer who we'll call John. He ordered a whole ham. It was waiting all by its lonesome in our meat back room, untagged for some reason. I get it for him and weigh it out, and the price comes to $46.31. He begins to take the ham and then asks me to cut it in half. I said, well, okay, sure. But the second I agree to this, he says, "Oh, could you trim it off the bone?" This carving is not only something I can't do, but it's a different price. I end up throwing out the original ticket instead of tagging it, mainly because I forgot. He took the ham from me and said, "Well, I'm sorry you're such an effing idiot and can't figure out how to cut a ham. When does the butcher come back?" I told him that he comes in at 7 a.m. He leaves without additional incident, and I eventually get a call from the cashier who asks my dyslexic butt for the price. I said $31.46. Then he said, "Really?" which should have been an indicator. I suddenly hear the customer in the background grumbling his Dennis the Menace, Mr. Wilson grumble, as the cashier tells me that the customer doesn't think that's the right price, and I better change the price. Enter Malicious Compliance. I thought as this was going on that the cashier questioning the price was more like an "oh wow that's cheap," and I realized the price I said was way too cheap. I told him, "Hey, tell the customer I'll happily change the price for him, and he can even come with to see the price change." Old Man River, John, Mr. Wilson, what have you, saunters back to the meat department along with his ham in a handbasket, looking like Little Red Riding Hood, with equally naive expectations of the next few moments of his life. In comes the big bad wolf to weigh the ham. I even say what I'm ringing up as I look up the code. So, whole ham, farmers, not spiral sliced, $2.49 a pound, here you go. Tag is for $46.31, which is visible to his side as well as mine. Oh, I see what happened. My bad, sir. My dyslexia kicked in over the phone. It was $46.31, not $31.46. Here you go. The audible exhale of breath was enough to energize me for the rest of the shift, just like Scream Juice or whatever it is that fueled Monsters Inc. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Pranker Joker. It says, "Dyslexics of America, untie." P.S. Did you hear about the butcher who backed into the meat slicer? He got a little behind in his work. So I guess what this story is saying is that the customer tried to hog the savings, but really butchered his chances of getting a deal. It was a real ham-fisted negotiation. But OP came out on top. I guess you could say that justice was cured. This episode is proudly brought to you by me and by Carmen Chameleon, the official Karma Stories mascot, 3D printed in vibrant colors and clutching a chocolate chip cookie like it's the last one on Earth. You can grab your very own Carmen over at dangly3d.com. And if you're wondering whether he'll share that cookie with you, the answer is yes, but only if you follow and subscribe. And maybe whisper sweet nothings to the algorithm. He's cute, he's got attitude, and he sits on your desk silently judging all your life choices, which honestly is the emotional support we all need. And hey, free shipping on orders over $40 Canadian, which is like a burrito and a half in US dollars. So head over to dangly3d.com, grab a Carmen and an articulated dragon, or one of our fidget clickers, and bring some chaotic 3D printed joy into your life. The company told tech support agents to lie to customers about why their internet wasn't working, so one rep followed orders exactly and still found a way to make things right. This story comes to us from Riondo. Can you hear me now? DSL tech support. This might not belong here, but it's the best place I can think of to put this. When I worked in a DSL tech support role, there was one customer classification I kept coming across. Ones who had their DSL account in a pending state. What that would mean was that the phone line and the DSL was sold at the same time. The other thing it meant was that the DSL would not be turned on until the old sale was canceled and re-entered into the system. Whenever I found someone who had their account in a pending status, I would tell them this and transfer them to sales so they could get it set up. After a while though, management got upset at this because it made them look bad. We were told not to tell the customer that it would never be fulfilled unless they talked to sales. Instead, we were supposed to say that the account was in pending status, and if the DSL wasn't turned on in a couple of weeks, to call back. We had customers call back for months because of this, getting more and more pissed since their DSL wasn't on. I finally got to the point where I would say, "Your account is in a pending status. Let me transfer you to sales to see if they know why." So even though I didn't tell them that their DSL would never come on, like we were told to do, I hopefully got them the help they needed. That was the only job I ever abandoned. It was so stressful that at least once a week, we had an ambulance come get someone. One time, it was me when they thought I was having a heart attack. It was just a panic attack, the first and so far only one I've ever had. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called MichaelGum97. It says, "Let me get this straight. Management only cared about looking good rather than addressing the underlying issue and essentially wanted angry customers. And what the heck is this about calling an ambulance once per week? What kind of psychopaths were running this crap show?" Okay, don't judge me on this, or, well, you know what? Judge me all you want in the comments down below. But I've worked in about 8 different call centers over the course of my lifetime careers, and I say yes, careers. But a lot of them were extremely toxic environments that were incredibly stressful, and the people at the top just made it even worse. They weren't there to help you, they were just there to get their numbers so they could get their bonuses. Call centers are some of the worst places to work, and my hat's off to everybody who actually stays in them because you're a better person than I am. Your stress management must be amazing. She cut him off before he could warn her, so he sat down on a nearby bench and waited to see if his instincts were right. What happened next? Let's just say the wind carried her mistake straight to him. This story comes to us from Jumping Crow Joker 24. Won't let me give you a warning? Stinks to be you. I'm not sure whether this would be better here in Malicious Compliance or in Off My Chest or Petty Revenge, but I decided to post this here first as I feel it fits in here pretty handedly. This happened about a week and a half ago. I was taking a walk in a small park that has a wooded area and a few walking trails. I decided I wanted to take the shortest path as it was getting late. About halfway through the path, I saw a skunk in the middle of the path. And I'm sure based on the title, most people already know where this is going. I turned around and decided it was not worth it to proceed further, and approximately halfway was enough. I exited the path the same way I entered, and as I was entering, I saw an old teacher of mine from high school. Let's call her Miss Samantha, not her real name. Miss Samantha was a teacher that went out of her way to nitpick everything I did in her class in high school. Note, it has been almost 12 years since I last saw her, and 13 since I was in her class. Anyway, with the backstory aside, I went up to greet her and said, "Hello, Miss Samantha, have you been?" And she cut me off. "Hi, I'm trying to take my daily walk down the shortest path. Don't bother me." I wouldn't. You said hello. This conversation is over until I get back from my walk. Or you can walk with me and we can catch up. I just want to warn, this conversation is over for now. Wait until I finish my walk and we can catch up. Understand, OP? At this point, I think for a moment. I am not the type of person who would normally just let someone walk into a potential skunking. But she was just rude to me twice and did nitpick everything I did in high school. So I chose to say nothing and just took a seat at the bench nearby. See, was that so hard? We don't need to be a know-it-all. That was your issue back as a student. And Miss Samantha went down that path. As she did, I whipped out my phone and texted my parents that I'd be heading back to my childhood home a bit late. We'll help them out with the dog later, but eat dinner without me. I'll be here for a bit longer. One thing to take into account is that the entrance and exit for the shortest path we have exit parallel to each other. The entrance is on one side of the bench I sat at, and the other side was the exit. In this case, entrance behind, exit in front, so family can wait on the bench and see their relatives exit. Normally, I knew I'd see her on the way out if she'd completed the whole route, but in this case, I had a feeling I'd smell her coming out first, knowing her attitude. Sadly, my instincts were spot on. As I'm on my phone playing a few games, I heard Miss Samantha's voice vaguely in the background, and my thought at the time was, oh no, she ran into the skunk, here we go. And I do not joke that just as I finished my thought, I heard the sound of a woman yell, maybe a scream. I couldn't really make that out 100%. But the wind was blowing my way, so I was downwind of the path, the skunk, and her. So it wasn't long before I could smell what happened. Miss Samantha did eventually come out from the path's exit, and the smell she was emitting was awful. It reminded me a bit of raw horseradish getting peeled, as it was really eye-watering. She said. I tried to warn you about that skunk. I figured it out when I got sprayed. You knew I'd react like that, didn't you? I shrugged. I wagered a guess, yeah. By the way, mind taking a few steps downwind, so it's easier to talk. After that, she gave me her phone number and asked me to contact her when I planned to come back. She hoped it wouldn't be when she was still reeking in skunk odor. As I said at the beginning of this tale, it has been a week and a half. She still has some lingering skunk smell. I found out that up until that moment, she was doing okay as well, but she also told me she got sprayed twice. When I asked her why she didn't turn back after being sprayed the first time, she told me if she already got sprayed and was going to smell like skunk anyway, she wanted to complete her walk. A fun little anecdote is that after everything, she admitted she was being petty, and when I told her I still wanted to study the foreign language she taught and took some classes in college, she told me that if I ever wanted to practice, to let her know, and she'll do it without the pettiness this time. To be honest, I think the skunking humbled her quite a bit, and hopefully she won't be forced to deal with residual lingering odor much longer. But anyways, thanks for reading. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Random Boomer. It says, there might be a human somewhere under that rough exterior. You were quite generous not to laugh at her, even though she well deserved it. OP responded and said, I like to try to be civil if possible, to the point my best friend has told me far too often, I am too nice. Another commenter down below called Pro David said, wait, so she nitpicked everything you did in class back then, you haven't seen her for over a decade, she insulted and disrespected you, and then she gave you her number? I can't decide if she or you are the weirder ones. OP, this woman treated you like crap back in school, and now over a decade later, she's still treating people like crap? I mean, come on, the way she talked to you, she definitely deserved getting sprayed by that skunk. But I don't think she deserved you being so nice. So yeah, you are right, you are too nice. Although I do want to mention that getting sprayed by a skunk can be an incredibly humbling experience. Don't ask me how I know that. When a family tried to quietly shun one of their own on Easter Sunday, they didn't expect the response to be so simple, or so powerful. One table, two sets of beliefs, and one very clear line drawn. This story comes to us from Real Bro. I shunned my religious family on Easter Sunday. I grew up in the 80s and 90s in a very strict branch of Christianity, sort of like Mormon and Jehovah's Witness. I didn't actually leave it until I was around 40, just a few years ago. Today, being Easter Sunday, the family lunch was to be at my one sister's house. She's devout, and her husband holds a position in church leadership. They still do this practice where they will not eat with people who have been removed from their church's membership, due to some things Paul supposedly wrote. I have basically never skipped any family events as a result of a conflict of my and their principles. Only if I'm traveling or have really important plans have I skipped. My sister kept asking me if I'd be coming for lunch today, and I read the messages but didn't reply. The issue was brewing for me already, but I didn't have the guts yet to address the issue. Around lunchtime, my mom asked me if I was coming, and I said something like, probably not, because of your shunning beliefs. She assured me that there were just two separate tables side by side, and that those who left their church could be together at one of them. I said, nope, that's an issue for me, I won't be coming. I said basically, if you wish to shun me, then I'll make sure I'm fully shunned by not attending. I ended up eating some grocery store food by myself, and I'm not upset about it. I don't think we can blame OP for skipping that Easter lunch when your own family would rather seat you like an outsider. Your response should be just to not show up at all. It sends a message that they really can't ignore. Speaking of not showing up, Pope Francis met with JD Vance, Trump's VP, yesterday. Today, the Pope said, nope, I'm out. You tell me, coincidence or divine protest? Either way, rest in peace to Francis, and condolences to the next poor soul stuck listening to JD Vance speak for more than 30 seconds. If you enjoyed today's episode, I encourage you to follow us on your favorite podcasting platform, or if you're on YouTube, subscribe and drop a like on the video. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.